Today I'm introducing you to the Elegoo Centauri Carbon 2. This 3D printer promises to be the best beginner-friendly 3D printer on the market. That's exactly the question we want to answer today. I worked a lot with the previous version of this printer, so we will compare those two, but also what new issues comes up. I've prepared quite a bit, especially if you are a beginner. Stay till the end because you will learn a lot. Let's quickly go over the features. So what exactly can this printer do? The build volume is 256 by 256 by 256 millimeter. That's a solid cube and more than enough for most home projects. The hot end reaches up to 355 degrees and the heat bed up to 110 degrees. Those are very good numbers, so we can print beginner materials with this printer, but also the more complex industrial materials like polycarbonate, for example. We get a standard 0.4 millimeter hardened steel nozzle, so we can print with abrasive filaments. I know this all sounds very complex if you're a beginner. That's why we will go into more detail on those points in a moment. We also get a built-in camera with AI features, so the printer can detect like print failures automatically. We can also easily connect the printer with Wi-Fi, so we can start our prints directly from our laptop. There's also a phone app, so we can watch our printer while we're on the go. And of course the highlight, the canvas for multicolor system. That sounds pretty fancy, but more on that later. Let's start with assembling the printer. The printer comes in this well-packaged box and we start by lifting out all the parts. The printer is also well wrapped in plastic. Inside the box are all the parts we need for assembly. It's also super simple. We start by loosening these screws inside. Then we can already mount the display. After that we deal with the multicolor system, which you basically just have to screw on, but I attached it the wrong way around at first because I maybe only skimmed the manual very roughly. Anyway, you're basically done at that point, and all that's left are the spools holder, which you can just clip on. And you still need to mount the 4 tubes for the material. Then we start the printer and click through the system. Here we select the language and connect the printer to the internet. At the end we can run an automatic calibration. Our first print will be the classical Elegoo test print. This little Buddha here. But let's now get probably started. If you now want to print your own models or like models from a designer, you need a so-called slicer program. That sounds complicated, but it's basically not at all. Elegoo already provides such a program. You can download it on the website and then you select there your printer and then you can just drag and drop your model and click on the slice button and then export this file you give your 3D printer. Here you have so many different settings, but this is just like the most easy version for it. Alright, anyway, my first real print was this jug here. But from here the problem started. With the next print it wouldn't feed any more filament and I had to remove the tubes to check what's going on. It turned out that the filament had broken inside. But that's not the printer's fault. Rather, the filament I used. It's this green PLA from Anycubic. The theory is so that this filament has been sitting in the warehouse from Anycubic for like years because it breaks super fast and this is a massive problem. Anyway, then I wanted to print with glow-in-the-dark filament from Prusa. But the problem is that those spool holders are not compatible for Prusa spools, meaning you can't probably mount them. So I thought, why not just print like this? But the problem is that the filament doesn't unroll properly, which causes us to always get an error message after a few layers. But basically all those other spools are compatible. It's just a few exceptions. After this whole glow-in-the-dark situation, I just wanted to print normal. But that didn't work at all. The printhead wouldn't feed my filament. You can see very clearly here how it tries to pull the filament in, but can't. I first suspected that the gears in the motors were somehow damaged or clogged with filament. So I unscrewed the printhead a little and quickly found the issue. The nozzle was completely clogged. So I heated up the nozzle to 230 degrees and tried with every means to get out the filament. Eventually I managed it. My tip: push firmly against it for about 20 seconds and it usually works. After this whole ordeal, I have to honestly say I was very grateful when everything worked again. This all sounds very off-putting now, but these were mainly my mistakes. But how does printing with multiple colors actually work? We have a classic color change system here. This means during a color change, the currently used filament is pulled back out of the hot end and it automatically loads the next color and briefly purges the old color before continuing to print. During this whole process, an extreme amount of waste is being produced, and it also takes a very long time, especially because other manufacturers manage it much faster. For example, Anycubic with their Anycubic X. So nothing new was invented here. They just try to catch up with the competition. The color change still works flawlessly. On the fish you just need to remove a bit of stringing and then it looks good. But how does this printer compare to other printer? If you want to know this, please subscribe to this channel. So the printer is strongly modeled after the Bambolab P2S, except you get the Elegoo printer for $300 less. The Bambolab printer has the better all-around system. But when you try to find a better price to performance offer, Elegoo wins. What's special about this printer is precisely the enclosed build chamber, which is why you can't compare it to printers like the Bambolab A1 or the Anycubic Cobra X, simply because with this printer you can print significantly more materials. Anyway, we need to briefly address the printer issues again. Number one, the company is to blame for this, not the printer. The previous version, the Elegoo Centauri Carbon 1, was sold under the pretense that you can later upgrade to multicolor printing, but that never happened.
Just a quick side note, Elegoo announced multicolor for the Centauri Carbon 1 just a few days ago, so it will cost about $150, but it's out. I think in a few weeks or months you can buy it.
Anyway, the build quality of this printer is also not optimal, and in many places it's honestly quite cheap. But I'm also currently spoiled, because I'm working at the same time with a printer that costs over €1,000 and I know you can't compare those. In the end, it's not about whether the door feels premium or not, but whether are the prints actually good. For me, another point of criticism is the filament holder, simply because I like to print with Prusa filament, and that doesn't work without some effort. For example, you could print your own spool holder, but you know you need more place, and I just like system that worked every time. But let's be honest, if you own this printer and you know about it, then just don't buy Prusa filament and you're good. So this is all complaining at a very high level. So all in all, should you buy this printer? I have to say, for €439, you get quite a lot of here. You can print complex materials, print with multicolor, get a camera and much more. The problems I had with the broken filament can happen with every printer regardless of the price. Are there better printers? Of course, but for that price, it's very hard to find a better one. If you are a beginner and you want to get into this topic, learn a bit about those things, I think this is the printer for you. But if you're not too concerned about the money and just want a system that prints good, I would advise you to buy a Bambolab printer. Anyway, I've linked the printer below, and if you now want to know more about filament types like PLA, PETG, watch this video. Thanks for watching.